So I help rural communities, tribal communities, and coastal communities access our programs as well as federal and state funding for projects. I also am on the strategic engagement team, which is the reason why I get to play Vanna today for this webinar. Thank you all for being here. It's amazing to see that we have 99 people on the call. Hopefully, there we go, 100 just logged on. So thank you again for all being here and spending an hour or so, a little bit more than that, with us. I wanted to have my colleagues from ODO introduce themselves. I'm going to go with Deward to Caitlin.
I am Deward Headley. I am the Energy Incentives Manager for this program, the other heat pump programs, solar plus storage, CREP, and the Homes and Air programs, which will launch later this year. Caitlin?
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin Lynch. I am an incentive policy analyst at ODO, mostly on our heat pump programs right now.
Thank you. Kayla and Patricia?
Hi, I'm Kayla. I am a program incentive analyst as well, and I mostly work on the Oregon rental home heat pump program, and I will be presenting on the heat pump, more on the HB3 process later today.
Thank you so much. Patricia?
Hi, I'm Patricia. I'm an incentive analyst for the CREP program, but I have the WebEx background to be able to help you if you have any issues with logging in, or if you have questions, so go ahead and put them in the chat if you need any help. Thank you very much.
Sounds like there's in the chat there's a few concerns about volume and people hearing. Just checking in with my ODO staff that you guys can hear us.
I can hear, but I had trouble with volume when I first signed in, so make sure sometimes WebEx has weird microphone settings, so it might be on your computer to see what system the speaker's using.
Okay, perfect. It sounds like there's some specific folks that are having troubles, but the majority can hear. So we're gonna push forward. We also have Toby White that also is on our incentive teams. He's having some tech issues, so hopefully he will be able to pop in, but he's here also for support. Thank you. We would also love if everyone that is an attendee can pop their name and affiliation in the chat just so we can see where people are coming in from. It also would be great if you could put the city that you're in just so we can see the diversity of geographies that this program hopefully will reach. Thank you so much. Next slide. We just wanted to give a quick background to the Oregon Department of Energy. We are a state agency that helps Oregonians make informed decisions, maintain a resilient and affordable energy system. We advance solutions to shape an equitable, clean energy transition, protect the environment and public health, and responsibly balance energy needs and impacts for current and future generations. We have a few different tasks that in how we complete our mission. We are a central repository of energy data, information and analysis, a venue for problem solving, Oregon's climate challenges, energy education and technical assistance. We do a bit of regulation and oversight, specifically in the siting category. And then we also administer energy programs and activities from the legislature and from federal agencies. Next slide. You guys have already gotten this far, so you probably don't need this introduction to WebEx, but just in case this is a new piece for you, you can mute and unmute yourself at the bottom. Video options as well are down below. And then there's a little piece to react, raise your hand as well, and then the chat as well. So when we get to the question and answers piece, please make sure to either put them in the chat or raise your hand, and we will unmute you and ask you to come off of mute on your side. Thank you so much for all the introductions. It's great to see where everyone's calling in from. Next slide. Today, we started with some welcome and introductions. Then we're going to go into a program overview. the incentive reservations based upon contractor input. We're going to talk about contractor registrations, how to apply, and then around 11:10, we're hoping to open it up to questions for 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you for Patricia for the reminder that this meeting is going to be recorded and it will be available on our website in a couple of days. Next slide. Thank you. Caitlin, are you doing this piece?
I am.
Perfect. Handing it over to Caitlin. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. All right, I'm going to give a quick overview of the incentives available through this program. So as you can see, we will have 12,000 incentives total. Each incentive will be worth $2,000 each. It's a flat incentive amount. We are planning on having 6,000 incentives available for rental units, 4,000 for new residential construction, and that includes new rental units, and 2,000 for owner-occupied homes, and then 2,000 for owner-occupied homes. And then one incentive is available per dwelling. Contractors will submit an application after the heat pump is installed, though we have added the option to submit a reservation prior to installation after we received feedback at our March meeting. And finally, HP3 incentives can be stacked with other non-federal incentives, such as those available through the Community Heat Pump Deployment Program and the Oregon Rental Home Heat Pump Program, if the legislature adds more funds to those programs, or for those in Community Heat Pump Deployment Program regions that still currently have funding available. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the heat pump purchase program, which we call HP3, is most similar to the rental home heat pump program. And you can review some of the comparisons on this slide, but there are a few key aspects that we'd like to highlight. The first is, as mentioned on the previous slide, the incentives are one set amount of $2,000 each. There's no variation in the incentive amount based on efficiency of the heat pump or anything like that. Next, there's a cap on the number of incentives a contractor business can claim each quarter and each year. And then finally, as I just mentioned, contractors apply for the incentive after installation, but after hearing significant feedback at our last meeting, we have implemented an optional reservation system so that it's optional, but you are able to reserve. And we will talk about that more later in the presentation. Next slide, please. And then just a few quick notes on what projects are eligible. The heat pump must be installed on or after the program start date. That date is still to be determined, but we will make sure to notify contractors at least 2 weeks prior to the start of the program so that you can prepare. And we have gotten a lot of questions about the heat pumps themselves. And yes, if y'all purchase heat pumps now due to the coolant change that's going to be happening, those are still eligible as long as they are installed in the home on or after program opening. Similar to our current heat pump programs, the heat pumps have to be installed by an ODOE approved contractor. They must include a 5-year system warranty and a 1-year labor warranty. They need to be new units and provide heating and cooling for a living area of the home. So a garage or an attic that is not used as a living area will not qualify for an incentive. And then commercial properties or vacation and transient occupancies are not eligible for incentives. And then if you would like to look into more of the details of the policies, they are available on the HB3 program website under HB3 policies. And I think Jeward is going to take over from here.
Thanks, Caitlin. Next slide, please. So as Caitlin mentioned, we received a lot of feedback. Actually, we went 2 slides. Can you go back 1 slide? Thank you. Received a lot of feedback on the importance of incentive reservations. So we were trying to keep the program as simple as possible and still are, but we have added the ability to submit reservations. Reservations are optional and applications can be submitted without first submitting a reservation. Reservations are really simple, as you'll see in the demo and application walkthrough later. The full project eligibility is not required. All that information is not required, and we actually don't review the reservations from that perspective when you submit them. To claim a reservation, effectively, you just submit an incentive application, and we'll match the reservation and the application based upon the address. Each reservation does count towards the incentive limits. So there are incentive limits of 50 incentives per quarter, or a total of 200 per year. And the total, the contractor total reservations, limits equal the reservations plus incentives submitted without reservations. If you submit a project that you've previously submitted a reservation for, that will only count as one towards your total. And a reservation, what that does, it holds one or more of the 12,000 incentives, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee federal funding, doesn't necessarily guarantee that the incentive will be paid if the federal funding is terminated. Next slide, please. So just as a matter of background, the heat pump purchase program is funded through a climate pollution reduction grant that was awarded to Oregon by the US EPA. And that grant is what is known as a reimbursable grant. So when we were awarded the grant, we didn't receive a bank transfer for those millions of dollars. What happens is that Oregon only receives those monies, that money when we spend it and submit for reimbursement. So we actually don't have that money sitting in a bank. When you submit an incentive application and we approve it, we then submit for reimbursement from the US EPA. If the grant funding is suspended, we will suspend the program until funding is once again available. Similarly, if the funding is terminated by the US EPA, we will unfortunately have to terminate the program. And in either of those situations, we will promptly notify you through the contractor email list and also put that information on our website. Next slide, please. So this is just a real high level flow diagram of how the whole process for HP3 works. So the first part is that you register for the program. Once you're registered and approved, you can either, taking the track at the bottom, you can submit an optional reservation or one or more optional reservations. And then going back to the top track, you would install the heat pump and then subsequently submit an incentive application. If you have already submitted a reservation behind the scenes, we'll match up the reservation and the application. But again, you don't have to submit reservations. And then once we review and approve the application, we'll pay the $2,000 incentive. I'm going to stop here. I see a lot of questions in the chat. Are there any of those, ODOE team, that are unanswered? It might be good to touch
You
on.
have clarifying questions, but I think we should keep going and then come to all the questions at the end. I think that most of them can wait till the end.
Okay, sounds good. Well, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kayla, and she'll walk through the portal and all of those details.
So yeah, like Stuart explained, the first step of the process is that a contractor registers for the program. Some of the things that will be required during that registration process. So we will require a couple documents, and that is a W-9. We do need that in order to pay you. A W-2 is not the same and will not work. And if your business does have any OSHA violations within the past 2 years, we will also request proof that your business has paid any fines or abated any violations in relation to that OSHA violation. Some licenses that are required are an active CCP license with no disciplinary actions from the CCP within the past 2 years. We'll also be required to give us some BCD license information. If you are not licensed with BCD and you typically subcontract the electrical work, you can enter a subcontractor that you typically use. Other requirements are current workers' compensation insurance coverage, no non-compliant orders from the WCB within the past 2 years, and no OSHA violations within the past 2 years. As I said before, if you have had violations within the past 2 years from OSHA and you have paid or abated any of those fines, we will just be requesting proof that those are complete. And then the training that you're currently involved in right now is also required for new and existing contractors. So first and foremost, if you're already an approved contractor with the Oregon Rental Home Heat Pump Program, you won't have to complete this step in creating a profile. But if you are new to our system, you will need to complete this step. So in the portal system, I just want to highlight that you can change the language settings by clicking the language dropdown underneath the sign in button. But the first step you're going to do is click that register button in between the sign in and redeem invitation options. Next, you're going to enter in the email that you'd like to receive all of the communications regarding the program to, and you're going to want to set up a username as well. We do advise that contractors use their email as their username, as if you, because if you lose your username, we have no way to retrieve that. And so you do need your, whoops, I clicked too fast. You do need that in order to sign in. Sorry, I kind of clicked away from that. And then the password requirements are shown above. They must be at least 8 characters long and contain at least 3 of the 4 of the following classes, including an uppercase, lowercase, a number, and or an alphanumeric or special character. And then once you have entered in the same password and confirmed it, you'll go ahead and press register. And then you're going to want, I usually save my passwords because I'm terrible at remembering them. But the next step is you're going to want to finish setting up your profile. So you'll click on the drop down in the top right corner of the screen. Sorry, this WebEx keeps going to the next screen when I'm just trying to pause. Okay. So you'll click that drop down and then you'll click profile. Then you'll be taken to complete your profile. So you'll enter in your information, such as your first and last name. The email that you use to register should auto-populate. You'll enter in your office number, mobile number. You'll want to enter in the organization name as you want to see it on the approved contractor list. And then you'll enter, it would be helpful if you also enter in your website if you have one. So that way we can add that to the approved contractor list. You'll also enter in your business street address information. And here you can also update your contact methods. So how we can reach you. You can uncheck or check any of the boxes listed for email, fax, phone, or mail. And then once everything is complete and updated, you'll click update. And you'll know you're done once you see that green ribbon that says your profile has been updated successfully. So again, if you already have a profile with the Oregon Rental and Heat Pump Program, you won't have to create a new one. You can just sign into that one. And then next, if you go back to the main HP3 program webpage, in order to register, you'll click the register to become an approved contractor here. In the previous webinar, we stated that if you already are an approved contractor for the Oregon Rental Home Heat Pump Program, you would not need to register for the HP3 program. This has now changed. every contractor will need to follow the registration steps shown. The reason for this is that we have listened to your feedback and we've adjusted the HP3 registration process so that one approved contractor business can manage multiple contractor registrations, allowing for a single business account to manage all the applications submitted by registered contractors using the same CCB license. This means that each business wanting to become an approved contractor will first need to register the main business account and be approved prior to individual installers within their business registering for the program. And like I said, this is because in the Oregon Rental Home Heat Pump program, we had some issues where an installer applied for incentives and all the communications regarding those incentives were going to that installer's email. But when the installer was no longer associated with that business, they had no way of receiving those communications or being able to complete the reservations, which is why that has changed for this program. So once the main business account is approved, installers can register for the program using that same CCB. The main business account will be able to manage all applications and communications submitted by users within the business. So if you're currently an approved contractor for the Oregon Rental Home, please use the same sign in and then click that register button. So to create a new registration, you'll click on the register here button. And if you haven't been approved yet, you'll click the create a new business option up at the top in the blue there. Next, you'll be taken to the screen where you'll enter in your business information. So you'll enter in your business name as it is shown on your CCB license, the contact email that you want to receive all notifications to, your business street address. We also ask that you enter in your county. You can type in that field to get to a county faster. And then all of the applicant contact information shown below should auto-populate to whatever you updated your profile in the last slide to. So if you're not seeing anything in that section, it's because you skipped that step. So you'll need to go back and finish updating your profile in order for that to show up. And then this is the registration. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll need to upload a W-9. And like I said, that is so that we can pay you. You'll click on choose file. And then make sure you have it saved under something you can remember. You'll click open and it'll automatically upload it for us. Next, you'll answer some yes or no questions, like do you have an active license with the CCB? Do you have any disciplinary actions within the last 2 years? You'll enter in the BCD license information. And again, if you don't have that and you typically subcontract that work, please enter your subcontractor information here. Next, we'll ask some more yes or no questions, like do you have workers' compensation insurance coverage? Have you been issued a non-complying order with WCD? Then we ask about OSHA violations, and this is where you would upload documentation of abating any fines or violations from OSHA. Next, we'll ask if you have any final determination orders from the Bureau of Labor and Industries Labor Commissioner. And we ask if you are, I'm sorry, that skipped. And then finally, we'll ask if you're on the list for contractors barred from receiving public works. And then once everything is complete, you'll click submit, and you'll know this is all done when you see that green ribbon that says submission completed successfully. And so if once the main business contractor registration has been approved, you can add other contractors to your business. So once that's been approved, you'll click the register to become an approved contractor link again, and you'll be taken to the same screen. You should be able to see the business name and CCB number that matches your business. So when you see that, you'll click the drop down next to that matching information and click authorize me. And then you'll be taken to a screen that will auto-populate the business name that you just clicked, and then the contact name of the profile that you set up. If you accidentally click the wrong business name, you still are able to select a different business name under the drop-down. You just won't be able to see the CCB on this slide or on this page of the screen. So make sure to click the right one, and then you can press submit. And then you're done as soon as you see that green ribbon that says submission completed successfully, and we will process them the same way we process other registrations. And then going back to the process overview slide, so after you register, we did add the optional reservations. So this is the reservation process in its entirety. So all you'll need to submit is the project site address information of the project, including the number of units within the project. So if it is a single family home, you'll enter 1 for the number of units. And then for multifamily, you can enter up to 124 for multifamily, which brings us into the incentive caps. So because of the overwhelming feedback that we received from the last round of funding in the Oregon Rental Home Heat Pump Program, we have implemented an incentive cap, as Stuart went over. That cap is 50 per business quarter, 50 per contractor business per quarter, with a grand total of 200 annually. If it is larger than 50, you can submit that and we will work with you on that. And then the next step in the process would be that you, as the contractors, install the heat pump in an eligible residence. More on the eligible residences. The address must be located within Oregon. What's also new to this program is that new residential construction is eligible, and that includes new rentals. Rental units, owner-occupied homes are also eligible. And then manufactured homes that are owner-occupied and paying space rent, we'd like you to first consider them as a rental unit. But if there are no more incentives available in that category, you can categorize them as an owner-occupied home. If you have specific eligibility questions regarding a site, please send them to our program email at hp3@energy.oregon.gov. And then the next step in the process is to submit an application. As you can tell from this diagram, the reservations don't automatically turn into an incentive application. So even if you have reserved an incentive, you will still need to submit an incentive application. But we will match them up so they won't double count. So some required documents for the incentive application: we require you to upload an AHRI certificate of the outdoor model, a final inspection from the permitting agency as proof that the heat pump is associated with the project address. You can upload a photo of the mechanical minor label if you're a part of that program. You'll also need to upload an invoice. The invoice should include the model information of the heat pump being installed. The heat pump price, just for the actual equipment itself, should be parsed out so we can see that. And then the total installation cost to the customer, incentives received, including the incentive from this program, the project site address, The warranty information, again, that is a 5-year warranty against manufacturer defects and at least a 1-year labor warranty. We also require that the invoice include the owner representative signature. So if you're working with the property manager, that would be their signature. And then this program will also require the contractor signature on the invoice. Next is the actual incentive application. So from that main screen, you're going to want to click create a new incentive application. And you'll be taken to this screen. This information will auto-populate and you can't change it. So you'll just go ahead and click the next button. Next, we ask some customer information questions. So if it is a business, you'll enter in the business name. And for the owner, first name and last name, you'll enter whatever contact you're working with on the project in that section. We do require that you enter in the owner phone number, but if you do have the owner email address as well, that would be really helpful to enter it in as well. So that way we can set up inspections quickly. For the project site address, line 1, you'll just enter in the street address. For 3A, the project street address 2, you'll enter in the unit number or application number. Please only enter in that information for that line. It helps us out a lot. And then we ask for the project site, city, zip code. We also ask for the county, which again, you can type in that field to get you to the county faster. And then 3F, we ask for the electrical utility at the project site. You will have to click the search icon on the side, and then we have all the utilities listed. You can use the pages on the bottom, or you can use the search bar at the top. The search bar at the top is very character sensitive, so if you just type in PGE, you will not find Portland General Electric. But if you type in Portland, you will find Portland General Electric. And then click select once you have the right one selected. Next, we'll ask for some project information, such as the indoor and outdoor unit brand names and model numbers. We'll ask them yes or no questions, like does the heat pump meet the efficiency requirements? And again, those requirements are an HSPF 2 of at least 8.1 and a CO2 of 16. Next, we'll ask if the heat pump has at least a 5-year warranty. You'll click yes or no. And is the heat pump new, meaning that it hasn't been previously used in a different home? That is a yes or no question as well. And does the heat pump provide heating and cooling for the living area of a dwelling? As Caitlin explained, as long as it's used for living, then yes, it meets that requirement. But if it's a garage that's used just to store tools and cars, it's not eligible. And it isn't being used for the main living area of the dwelling, so you would click no for that. Question number 10 asks for the heat pump purchase price, and that is just asking for the equipment itself, not for any of the labor costs associated. So that is just for the indoor and outdoor units. Next, we ask about the heating type being replaced. And we have a drop down for that. And then if it's something else, then you can just press other. We won't be asking further questions if it's other. So next, you will have to enter in any other incentives received for the project. So to do so, you'll click the add incentive blue box. Once you click that, you'll enter the amount of the incentive being received, and for the description, you'll enter in where it's coming from. If it's coming from the Oregon Rental Home Heat Pump Program, you can enter or HHP will know what you're talking about. If you enter in ETO for Energy Trust of Oregon, we'll also know what you're talking about. Or if the project is also receiving an incentive from the Community Heat Pump Deployment Program, you can enter CHDP. We'll know what you're talking about. And then you'll click next. If for some reason that information that you entered was wrong or there was a mistype, You can remove it or edit. So you can either click delete or edit from that drop down shown. It'll ask if you're sure if you want to delete. You can remove it that way. And you can always add more if you did that by mistake as well. So next, we do ask if the household is low and moderate income, or which we refer to as LMI. We really only ask this information for reporting purposes. We won't be requiring documentation verifying LMI, and that's mostly because you won't get an additional incentive. If it is LMI, we really just need this for reporting purposes. And then 13 is asking how the residence is eligible. So that's those categories that I mentioned earlier, either new owner occupied, existing owner occupied, new rental, or existing rental. And again, if you have specific eligibility questions, please send them to the program email. We have added a section for you to enter in the minor label permit number. If you don't have a photo, you can upload that minor label, or you can enter in the minor label number there. You still will need to upload something in the final mechanical permit. So if not a photo of the minor label sticker, then you can upload the AHRI certificate again, but that's only if you're part of the minor label program and you filled out number 14. The other requirement documents are the AHRI certificate, the invoice that we went over earlier, and the final mechanical permit will also need to be uploaded. And then you also have to agree that the requesting business acknowledges that the rebate payment is contingent upon federal funding availability, and if federal funding is canceled or suspended, this incentive may not be reimbursed. You'll have to enter in your signature. The signature date and time should auto-populate. So once all of that is complete, you'll go ahead and press submit. And you'll know you're complete once you see that green ribbon that said submission completed successfully. And the next step in the process is the incentive application is approved or denied. This program is different than rental in that you can reapply if the application is incomplete. And so here is the basic process that we look at when we're reviewing. So applications will be denied if the project is outside of Oregon, if the installation occurred prior to the program start. Again, we're going to give you at least a 2-week notice prior to the program start. If the heat pump is installed in a commercial building, if the address changed, and this is specifically if you reserve an incentive and change the address when you submit an application, it will be denied. And an application will also be denied if the heat pump does not meet the minimum efficiency requirements. It'll be denied if there's missing or incomplete required information, but you can reapply if that is the case. And finally, if an incentive is approved, the contractor will receive $2,000 incentive. And there are some resources that I want to point out on the webpage. First and foremost is the program policies, so you can read through those and understand the rules of the program a little bit more. There's also the program FAQs listed, as well as the contractor registration requirements. If you're unsure what the how the Oregon Department of Energy qualifies people as low and moderate income, there is the LMI eligibility guide on there as well as explanation of us not needing documentation for that requirement. It really is just for reporting purposes. You can also sign up for program updates on the webpage, and the webpage will be updated regularly with the current funding statuses of each of the categories. And then some key program dates. Today is the contractor trainings. Thank you for being a part of this. Spring 2025, we'll begin accepting new applications. Again, we will give you at least a 2-week notice prior to the program start. And now it's time for all your questions.
Thank you so much, Kayla. That was really helpful, and I think it will be not only helpful now, but it's going to be continuously helpful for people to look back on this, the recording on our website as we start opening up the reservation system and the process. So thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Dord. Thank you, Caitlin, for your presentations. We are going to open this up for questions, correct? That's next steps, Dord?
Yeah, yes, Sarah, you want to go, can we go back maybe and just go top down through the chat?
That's exactly what I was going to do.
Good. I think, yeah.
There is a few questions just off the bat that I want to reiterate because we saw them a couple of times here. Like I said, this presentation is going to be recorded. It is going to be on our project page. The link is in the chat. If you go on the main page of Oregon Department of Energy's website, on the left it says heat pump programs. If you click on that, there's a link. Is the easiest way to get there after this chat has ended. But the recording will be there, and this opportunity will, or this webinar will be there continuously for review. Is the first question. The second question that we said multiple or want to double down on is we don't have a program open date yet. That is still to be determined. However, once we get an open date for the program, we will open the portal 2 weeks prior so that folks can get in there for contracting or to get their portal set up. Am I saying that correctly?
Actually, we'll give people a 2 weeks notice for when we will open the portal so that they can be prepared for when we open
So
it.
there will be 2 weeks before the portal opens for folks to get prepared. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna start from the beginning. There's a question about warranties and how long the warranty will be. Is it only a 5-year warranty or is a 10 or 12-year warranty eligible?
So 5 is the minimum requirement. If it's more than 5, then yes, it is eligible.
Okay, great.
Sarah, I think there was one question before that. William Jerome had a question. What does it mean for some reservations can be made prior to installation? I think we answered that, but since reservations are optional, hopefully that answered that question.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, now I'm lost in my chat. Here we go. If the website is updated the way you say it should be, and the total claim says 1998 use and 1,998 use and 2,000 is the total, how do we know if our client can get it?
So yeah, just to use some actual numbers. So we're going to release the funding in 2 tranches of 6,000 apiece. And really that's the point of the reservations. We will not allow reservations more reservations to be submitted than are available for the incentives. And we will effectively close the direct submission channel for incentives once we reach that 6,000 incentive limits for each of the 2 chunks of funding that are going to be released.
Okay, thank you. My neighbor has decided right now is the perfect time to start his motorcycle for the spring. So I apologize if you can hear that. The next question here is about layering incentives. Is this in lieu of the federal tax credit, or can they double dip?
Yeah, there's no reason why the homeowners or building owners can't submit the tax credit along with this as well.
Okay, and then I saw a question way later, but this is a great point or good spot to put that. Is this only for Bonneville customers, or who is eligible for our program?
Anybody in the anybody in the state. It's not for any specific utility, or it's both the investor-owned utilities and all of the public-owned utilities as well. So anybody in the state.
So if anyone is living in a home in Oregon, they qualify for this program.
Yes, or owning a rental unit
Okay, great.
in Oregon, or building
Yeah,
a new home.
any home in Oregon qualifies for this. And then the one other thing is Energy Trust of Oregon's incentives can layer on top of this, as well as any other utility can layer on top of this. So if you are an eligible contractor through Energy Trust or through any of the utilities in your area, this program can layer on top of that, as well as on top of the tax credits.
Yeah, I'll build on that one additional item. Later this year, when the Homes in Here programs come online, those will not be stackable since they're both federally funded programs.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, one more second. Here we go. Does the incentive limit per quarter apply across all contractors or individually?
Yeah, the incentive limit per quarter applies to each contractor business. So if you have multiple individuals working within that business, and in the portal, it is at the contractor business level. And I'll go ahead and build on my own answer. This was the reservation limit was one thing that we heard very vocally from with the rental home heat pump program. And so the reason that we've added these is to try to make sure that the funding is distributed across the state. And as we go ahead with the program, depending upon the uptake and how rapidly the reservations are reserved, if we are not seeing the uptake that we'd like to see, we may increase those limits, and also build on what Kayla said earlier. If you have a building, a multi-unit rental property that is more than 50 and would exceed your 50 per quarter limit, please do go ahead and submit that, and we'll work with you on that and really effectively just make that come out of the annual totals. We don't want to put a barrier in place for organizations that are, or contractors that are doing large rental units.
Okay, thank you. Does a reservation guarantee funding if funding runs out?
I'll take that one as well. Kayla, I'll let you jump in on a different one. So that's one of the reasons I really put the slide in to kind of explain the way that the funding worked from a federal perspective. There's really nothing that the state of Oregon, anybody in the state of Oregon can do to guarantee that the federal funding will not be terminated or suspended. And that's why we're doing what we can from a reservation perspective. As long as the money is available from the federal government, those reservations will at least give you the guarantee, you as a contractor, the guarantee that you will get one of the 12,000 incentives that is available, as long as that money continues to flow.
Okay, I'm going to just reiterate, the website says that we do not need to register if we are a listed and approved contract for the rental home heat pump program. Is this correct? If so, when will our approvals be moved over to this program?
Yeah, so this was something that as you implement these programs, that was our intent at the beginning. We wanted to magically migrate them over. Unfortunately, there are some technical challenges with doing so. So contractors will need to re-register, but those who were previously approved for the rental home heat pump program will be automatically approved, but you will need to go through the registration process.
This could be an opportunity to update it so that the profile that you use to register, you'll get to choose which email all of the communications go to, because I know some of you contractors don't have it set up with the email you'd like to receive all those notifications to. So think of it as a clean slate for that.
Okay, thank you. Actually, can we, I saw this slide in there, but in the second round with the rental program, the funding ran out in 24 hours. How do we know if we continue with the job and tell the customer, but then the funding runs out by the time it is invoiced?
Yeah, and that's really the point of providing the reservations. So you will be able to have a reservation to be able to reassure that customer that that they have a rebate reserved. And again, unfortunately, there is no reassurance that the federal funding will continue to be available. It is at this time, which is one of the reasons we are trying to get the program stood up as quickly as possible to make that money available for Oregonians.
I'd also just reiterate on the federal funding side of things, we do have a contract with the federal government saying that they will give us this money. And typically contracts hold weight. And so we are working within the guidelines of the contract that we have with Department of Environmental Quality and the US EPA to execute the program as they've awarded us. So though the federal government currently has had some flux in their behavior, we expect that contract to hold weight and get reimbursed as we've made an agreement with them to do that. So, okay. Can we pre-approve now, or do we have to wait till the portal opens?
Unfortunately, until the portal is open, none of the functionality will be available. So you'll have to register and submit your reservations at that point.
Thank you. If we are an existing contractor, how do we do the training? Today was the training. So for you being correct?
Yeah.
Great. So for you being here, you are doing the training. Congratulations. Will proof of permit and load calculations be required?
Kayla?
Proof of payment or proof of permit?
It says, will proof of permit and load calculations be required?
Okay, we won't be requiring load calculations. The minimum efficiencies for the program are that HSPF2 of at least 8.1 and then a SEER2 of 16. So we won't be asking any load requirement questions. And the final inspection notice from the permit is required, or the that BCD minor label mechanical permit. So yes, the permit is required.
We already answered about this being the training that people are required to do. How do we register for the HP3 program in our account? I think we went over that pretty well.
I'll just say there, the reason you're not saying it is because we have not released it at this point. But when it is released, it'll be more apparent.
And you will get a 2-week notification that it will be released. Correct? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you just talk a little bit how different employees might have their own login under the same company? We saw that in the chat.
Derry, do you want to cover that?
Yeah, so when you register a contractor business, there is a default contact, the main contact for that. And that's the one that will receive all of the emails. But if you have additional people that have their individual logins, they'll be able to go in and submit reservations and applications for that contractor business. And that's really the point of having separate logins, since it's not a good security practice to share logins. This gives contractor businesses with multiple people that work within that business, within the portal, gives them the ability to use their own accounts.
Perfect. Thank you. And then the next question is, can you remind us of the total amount of funds that are provided for this program?
Sure. Yeah, the contract that we have with US EPA is for $12,000, $2,000 incentives, or a total of $24 million. And once again, we will be releasing those in two chunks, one chunk this year, and then a second chunk in 27 or potentially sooner, depending upon how rapidly that first chunk is reserved and or claimed.
Perfect, thank you. I suspect some contractors do fewer heat pumps than others as a natural course of business. Do heat pump specialists get unused quantity caps?
Yeah, that's. I think I mentioned this before. As we go ahead and have a better idea of how rapidly the incentives are being reserved or claimed, we do intend to adjust that limit, if that 200 per year limit, adjust that upwards if possible. If we're not seeing significant uptake within the program, we will adjust that up.
Thank you. At this point, there was a question that asking if this webinar was going to be available to watch. Just want to reiterate, this is being recorded. It will be updated, or it will be up on the website as soon as possible, definitely by the end of the week. The heat pump price information on the invoice that is requested, does this include materials too, or just the boxes?
On the invoice, it'll include all of the materials, so the installation as a whole, but we do need the equipment parsed out so that we can see what just the equipment is, because these incentives are for the equipment.
Thank you. For the equipment cost, how does that need to be broken down for companies that use flat rate pricing for projects? Does the equipment have to be a separate line item that's pulled out of the package pricing and listed separately?
I think we just answered that.
Okay, perfect. Never mind. I am not a heat pump person, so I apologize to all in the chat.
But
just
the answer is yes, it does.
Okay.
It needs to be pulled out separately.
Can we submit a multifamily project as one project, or do you need fully separate submissions for each unit?
But yeah, it'll still be like the Oregon Rental Home Program, in which it's a one-to-one for the applications. So you will need to separate out per unit. For the reservation portion, you can reserve multiple incentives at once, but unfortunately, our system only allows for a one-to-one with unit and equipment.
Yeah, we did spend a lot of time looking at that, and there were just a lot of complexities and problems with doing that. If one of those was that there was going to be a much higher workload on the ODO side, and believe it or not, we have a very small staff, and it just wasn't feasible for us to be able to do that. We'd love to be able to do that, but it just wasn't feasible for us to be able to do that. We did do that on the reservation side because that's a lot simpler. So rather than having to submit 40 reservations, you can just submit one reservation for a 40-unit multifamily building.
Okay. The next question, if a reservation and application occur in different quarters, what quarter does that a project apply to?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that I have an answer off the top of my head. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say we're going to need to think through that one and give you a firm answer. We'll put that into the FAQ once we have that thought through properly.
Thank you, Zach. You asked an unanswerable question, but we'll make sure to get an answer before the program launches. How would we know if a home is low to moderate income? We typically do not gather income information for our clients. What is the LMI threshold?
Yeah, so that LMI threshold is listed on the program webpage. But again, we don't like if you have that information, it's great. We just need it for reporting purposes. So if you don't know that information, then you would answer no to that question. And I'm trying to pull up the
Yeah, if you have the guidance form, so really we've created a real simple guidance form on this, and the expectation is that you will simply ask the homeowner, the landlord, or the building property owner, or the tenant, just a yes or no question if they meet that set of criteria. And we really have just a one-page form that Kayla is showing you now. And we really, this is really valuable information for us. And so if at all possible, we appreciate you gathering this information. And we've tried to keep it a lot simpler than what was done in the rental home heat pump program, which actually required documentation to be collected from the homeowner, I'm sorry, the tenant, and submitted with the application. So we've simplified this requirement a whole lot.
Thank you. Why is all the same info in the form required if the AHRI is attached?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And this really comes down to this. There's a lot of information on the RE certificate, and we need that information electronically or in individual data fields, because we actually have to submit that information back to the EPA.
There was a question about a start date. Again, we don't have a clear start date yet. We will give you 2 weeks notice via an email notification once we do have the start date. So please make sure to sign up for our email notifications that are on the program website. There's another one. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We'll also send that out to all of the approved contractors as well.
Perfect.
So we'll send that out to our standard rental home heat pump program mailing list, as well as the one sign up for updates email list.
Okay, thank you. There's a question again about Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon does manage incentive programs through Pacific Power or for Pacific Power. This is not one of those. This is a federal funding program that anyone in the state of Oregon can access, whoever their utility is. If they live in a home, rental, multifamily, single family owner, whatever, they most likely can access this program. There's nothing, this program is specifically Oregon Department of Energy is managing. There's not a piece of this that Energy Trust is managing. If we reserve an incentive and reserve it correctly, will we be guaranteed to receive that incentive for our customer?
I think we've answered this. You will be guaranteed to have a reservation for one of the incentives, and as long as the money is still available from the federal government, you will receive that incentive.
Thank you. We just talked about low to moderate income, but again, just to reiterate, this is different than the rental home heat pump program where there was a income-based requirement. We do not have an income-based separation between the tranches of funding. This is straight up. We are asking for low to moderate income information for reporting requirements to the federal government, but it's not a requirement for this program. Are the heat pump minimum efficiency requirements defined yet?
Yeah, and that's an HSPF 2 of at least 8.1 and a CR2 of 16.
And those are in the program policies, which are effectively the same as rules for the program, and those are on the website.
Okay. Does the incentive go towards the purchase price of the equipment, or does it go towards the total installed price?
not sure what the difference is. If you're referring to when we look at the total incentives will be based upon the total installed price. So, for instance, I'm trying to think of an easy scenario. Let's say that the total install price was, including the heat pump purchase, was $8,000, and there were $7,000 of other incentives that were available. Then $1,000 would go towards the heat pump price, assuming that it was more than $1,000, which it probably will be.
But there is no incentive like in our prior programs for additional upgrades. This is
Correct.
just for the heat pump and the heat pump equipment.
Right.
Okay. What is the anticipated payment timeline?
Yeah, the anticipated payment timeline is 4 weeks. Fortunately, the approval process is a little simpler, but from that point on, it goes through the exact same process that the rental home heat pump program goes through from a payment perspective.
Okay. Can you define what we are considering a living space? Is a bedroom considered a living space?
Yes, and a non-living space would be something like a garage or an unfinished basement, or I don't know, an outbuilding. All of those would not be considered living space if somebody doesn't actually occupy them as part of their normal living behaviors. And actually, it also has to do with whether or not they're considered living space from a permitting perspective.
Okay. Load calculations would ensure that a properly sized system is being installed for each unique home. No load calculations will lead to improper heat pumps being installed across the entire state. Is that a wise choice for all of our hard-earned dollars to help subsidize bad heat pump installations? Just reading the question.
Yeah, no, so Chad, I think that's a really good point. It is very important for heat pump contractors to understand a lot of things, including properly sizing the units. I think the real challenge, we're trying to create a program that is simpler for from an application and a management perspective. The funding behind this did not come with significant staff, so we've necessarily had to keep the program simple, but it is very important that heat pump contractors are properly trained and understand how to properly size units.
Thank you. There is a question that says, are we still asking to discount the customer $2,000 up front, or can we wait to rebate the customer once we have received the rebate from ODOE?
Yeah, so this is the same as the rural home heat pump program, where the incentive is expected to needs to come off of the actual amount paid by the customer. I didn't end that with the right tone, but it is expected to come off of the invoice and not be paid by the customer.
I would just also reiterate, between the last meeting and this meeting, we listened to contractors and made sure to include a reservation system, so that process can be a little bit more certain for you when you enter into an invoice or contractor with your customer, that the reservation has been made, and was based on feedback from contractors. So thank you for speaking up.
And I will say this. Most of the contracts that are being signed around government programs have a disclaimer around funding availability, and there's nothing that prevents contractors from putting a similar disclaimer within their contract to the customer.
Great feedback. Thank you. I think we are getting into the end of it, but there is a few questions here. Hold on. Someone said, I have a login from the Oregon Rental Home Rebate Program. I do not see where I can register for this program. Again, the portal is not open yet. We will respond, or we will make sure that you have 2 weeks notice before the portal opens. It should not be in your portal yet because it will not be in your portal yet. So if you're looking and you can't find it, that's correct. You'll get 2 weeks notice that it's going to open though.
And we'll also include how to get to it as well, like screenshots of where to find it, just so that way you don't have to actually look. You'll be shown where it is.
Looks like there are some more questions towards the bottom.
Here we go. You ask for equipment price and invoice price. Is it safe to assume this information / contracts are private and it will not be shared or publicly available?
In general, we do not make the program information publicly available. The Freedom of Information Act does apply to all information, not all information, does apply to the Oregon Department of Energy. And that does not mean that we share all information that is submitted. To date, I'm not aware of any requests for documents from an incentive program.
So to reiterate, it could potentially be public. However, it's not something that we willingly put on the website for folks to see or share willingly.
Correct.
Is this for single family homes or are multifamily homes eligible? This is for both rental and for homeowners and also for multifamily properties or single family properties. It is for everyone.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sarah, I think that's about the zones, not the type of home.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Heat pump question.
Zones.
Yeah. So yes, for multiple zones are eligible. I realize that in the user interface, it doesn't allow you to designate multiple indoor units. And in that situation, just list one of the indoor units.
We understand you don't have a start date yet. Is there changes you're expecting between now and then that would lead you to delay a start date?
So we are tracking on our, so I'm also the project manager on this behind the scenes, and we're tracking to our planned go live date. We just don't want to provide specifics that we're not 100% sure of, which is why we're going to provide the 2 weeks notice. We will be launching the program this spring.
Perfect. Does a rental property homeowner need to live in or need to be an Oregon resident, or can they live out of state if there's an Oregon renter in the home?
As long as the home is in Oregon, it's eligible. If the owner is out of state, that's okay, as long as their rental property that is receiving the incentive is in Oregon.
Can you be pre-approved once the portal is open, or must you wait for the program to start?
So the heat pump must be installed after the program starts. So there aren't pre-approvals and there aren't retroactive rebates or incentives that will be available.
What will the timeline requirement from contract signing to completion? Will extension be an option if there's a problem getting an approved permit, inspection, etc., if deadlines are compromised along the way?
I'm so happy that somebody asked this question. We removed all of those deadlines from the program. So that whole situation where extensions and stuff, none of that exists any longer.
Perfect. I think that's mostly the questions. Oh, it looks like there was a typo on the slideshow around it's regarding the federal funding. It says may be reimbursed, but if the federal funding and our contract with the federal government is terminated for whatever reason, the incentives will not be reimbursed, and we want to be, or may not be reimbursed. We want to be very clear that if the federal government does not uphold their side of the contract, the state will terminate the program. And we will try to give you as much notice as we have, as we can to do that. How long will it take for a reservation to be, oh, sorry, Jordan.
No, I just said the questions are still coming in. Go ahead.
Okay. How long will it take for a reservation to be improved?
Yeah, I think in general, they're going to see a really short turn on the reservations because they're really pretty straightforward. Initially, there's going to be a lot of them. So initially, they'll take longer. Normally, it should be a matter of a couple of business days at most.
Okay. Do bids / estimates need to be signed before programs start, or can they be signed ahead of time and installed installation to start after program start, whenever program start is?
I don't believe there's anything in the program policies that prevents contracts from being signed ahead of time, as long as the heat pump is installed and inspected after the program opens. Caitlin, I'm looking to you to verify that.
Yeah, currently it needs to be installed on or after the program start date. And again, May 1st is not the program start date. We have not officially announced an official start date. So just keep that in mind, please. Thank you.
Yeah, which also applies to Kristen Mason's question. It looks like that date was from the draft and got left in there, but we will announce the official program start date when we send out the 2-week advance notice.
Can this be for heat pump replacements where the home already has an existing heat pump, or is it only for conversions from or fuel switching from an electric furnace to a heat pump, or from gas to a heat pump, etc.?
So that's definitely, okay.
Go ahead, Kayla.
I would say, yeah, that's definitely possible. The program just requires a new heat pump being installed. We don't have any requirements regarding the type of fuel you're switching or your current heating type. We just ask that information for our reporting purposes. But as long as a new heat pump is being installed in the residence, it is eligible.
Okay, perfect.
Relative to the reservation expiration date question, reservations don't have an expiration date, but if you, as a contractor, decide that you want to withdraw a reservation, you can just email us and we will withdraw them. Otherwise, the reservations are good through the life of the program.
Okay, thank you. It looks like the questions have stopped coming in. It's 2:22. That seems like a perfect time to close this down early. Thank you everyone for your questions. It's always great to see so much participation. We always love to hear your feedback, and clearly have made some changes to this program from your feedback last time. So thank you everyone for participating. Again, we will be sending email blasts out to current approved contractors, as well as through our email blast, as well as it will be on our website 2 weeks prior to the portal opening. Our contact for any questions regarding this program, the email is right there, hp3@energy.oregon.gov, as well as a lot of great information on our website Thank you, heat pump team. Any last final thoughts before we shut this thing down? Great. The recording of this will be on our website as soon as possible. Definitely use that as a resource. Kayla was phenomenal in doing that training earlier today. Thank you so much. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.